So we're putting this one up like right now. Hopefully if you're a regular viewer, you've already learned enough to know how to deal with some of these situations. And hopefully you were smart enough to know in the beginning. But we're in the middle of this massive blizzard right now. And I'm watching the news and I'm seeing people do shit that they should know better than to do. Number one, you should have already had enough food and water stored to make it through this blizzard because there was already a pandemic. And the pandemic should have taught you, if nothing else, that you need to be prepared not to have to go anywhere for a few weeks. So you should have already had that. If you didn't have it, guess what? You need to start rationing your food at day one. When something like this happens, you start rationing your food. Okay, the pandemic makes it harder to respond to something like this than normally. Some of the things I would tell you to do in a normal year are harder to do because there's a pandemic. First off, this is not gonna go away for 3 more days. We're not gonna get above freezing for 3 more days. So this isn't going anywhere.
And some places longer than that.
And some places it's gonna be longer than that. For us, it's going to be 3 more days, at least. Okay, then you've got to wait for the melt and all the problems from the melt. Okay, so here's some things. Okay, so what are we hearing that people are doing? They're using space heaters and they're burning down their houses because they're putting the space heater right up against something flammable. If you're using a space heater, space heaters can actually be used pretty effectively and pretty safely. Here's some tips. Take the space heater, pull it as far away from the wall and anything else as you can get it. Plug it into a power surge cord. Because that way, if there's a short in the stove, it's not going to turn off the electricity in the entire house. It'll blow that one, and it'll blow that quicker. Before it can spark, it'll blow that power cord because it's got a power surge unit in it. So that is a really good, safe way to use one. Okay. They're doing rolling blackouts. Some people haven't had electricity for 2 or 3 days. You should never have one heat source. I know, too late now, but this is not going to be the last time we have a polar vortex.
Nope.
These polar vortexes are caused by climate change.
Global warming.
And global warming.
Yeah.
And people are like, tell me about your global warming now that it's cold. This is global warming. Okay, so this is not the last time we're going to have to deal with this shit in the South, in the Midwest, all over the damn country. Over half the country is in the middle of this thing. Okay, so everybody, there's some simple things you can do. First off, get yourself more than one heat source. Because right now in Northwest Arkansas where we live, there's entire communities where they've shut off the gas.
Yes.
Okay? They've shut off your natural gas. So if you only have natural gas heat, you're screwed. They're shutting off the electricity. If they do both of those things, you're screwed.
Yep.
We have wood heat.
And a generator.
And a generator. So those 2 things give us a certain amount of protection. What do you need? You need to have more than one heat source. Okay? The hot weather, you can almost always find a way to cool down, even if you have to sit in your damn bathtub full of cold water.
Right.
But the cold will kill you quickly. Okay. So you need to have a heat source. You can get, and I shouldn't say this until we order one, because we're getting ready to order 2 of them ourselves, just to have yet another heat source. You can get portable propane heaters. They're fairly safe to use. Again, use your fucking head. Don't stick them against something flammable.
Right.
Watch for carbon monoxide poisoning. Okay, get a carbon monoxide detector.
You need one anyway.
You should use one anyway. Okay, get something like that. Okay, if you live in a neighborhood, and this is when I say the things that I've normally told people to do, because you have to realize, I wrote a book called How I Spent the Apocalypse. I've done literally dozens of apocalypse panels over the years where I've taught people how to get through things like this. One of the things I've always said is, in case of polar vortex, in case of blizzard conditions, and there's no power, okay? People right away worry about refrigeration. No, it's freezing outside. Don't worry about your perishable items. Pack some snow in a fucking ice chest and use it. If it's a freezer item, stick it in a goddamn bag and stick it outside. Stick it in a pillowcase and put it outside where dogs and cats can't get into it, and wildlife. Guess what? It's going to stay frozen. It's, what is it? 15 degrees today? It's 15 degrees today. Last night it was 10 degrees, and we thought, oh, how nice and warm, because the night before that, -9. Wind chills, 15 degrees below zero here. Okay, so don't worry about that, but what you have to worry about is heat. So if you live in a neighborhood, talk to your neighbors. Make a plan before this happens. Who has a fireplace? Who has a working, viable fireplace? Okay, because that's where you all need to go when this happens. Now, for the pandemic, everybody wear a mask. Everybody distance as far as you can, because here's the thing. COVID's not going to kill you as fast as the cold will.
Yep.
Okay, so, but it does make it harder, because normally I would just say everybody should have a plan in a neighborhood. You know, they've got a fireplace. Everybody should pitch in and buy the people with a fireplace 2 ricks of wood, so that when something like this happens, you can all be warm. Use your heads. Don't get out in this. If you don't have, if your water heater goes out, just live without hot water for a few days.
Right.
Don't get out in this. Don't drive in this. If you have to drive in this, because you're going to lose your goddamn job, which that's another thing. What do we not understand in this fucking godforsaken country about climate change? We need to have it where when shit like this happens, you automatically shut everything non-essential gets shut down.
Yeah.
Okay? Don't go anywhere. These people are sliding all over the roads. But the worst thing is, when they find these people slid off in the ditches with their cars stuck, what do they find out about them? They don't have food, they don't have water, they don't have a blanket, they don't have jumper cables, they don't have kitty litter, they don't have any of the things you're supposed to have. They don't have a flashlight, they have none of that. But worse than that, half the time they're not wearing a good coat.
No.
They're wearing freaking sandals. No hat, no gloves. Because after all, the car's warm. Don't be stupid. When you get out there and fuck around, you're going to make somebody risk their life to go save you. If you don't have to be out there, it's your fault if they get killed.
Yep.
It's your fault if you run into somebody else's car. I just saw where somebody ran into, their car started skidding on the ice going sideways, and they ran into a parked car.
Yeah.
So somebody's got their car parked on the street, minding their own goddamn business, and now the entire side of their car is gone.
Yeah.
So somebody could get out and drive around in it. It's ridiculous. Okay, so what else can you do? Okay, so one of the things I always tell people is when you lose the power, if you can turn off your water and drain your pipes, fine. If your water's going to get turned off because a water line busts up the line, you should always have stored water. If you don't have stored water, the minute something like this happens, fill your bathtub so that you have a storage of water. Fill anything you can get your hands on with water so that you have it. If you don't want to store water, keep plastic jugs, your old juice bottles, and pull them out and fill them with water when something like this happens, okay? But what I always tell everybody is start camping in the centermost part of your house, the part that has the most out walls between you and the outside. Camp in there. If you have a tent, especially with the poles, not the ones you have to stake in, obviously, although you could tie off to your furniture.
Yes.
Erect your tent in the middle of your freaking room it has the most walls. Put your mattresses in there. Bring all your bedding.
Or if it's a little tent, put it on top of your mattresses, like you said the
Yeah,
other
if
day.
it's a little tent, put it on top of your mattresses. Okay, all of that. Make yourself a nice little cozy space. Cover your windows and doors to that room with blankets and camp in there. You'll stay warm. You won't freeze to death. Okay? You might not be cozy. It might not be comfortable. Guess what, people? We're not going to always be comfortable.
No.
We started life living in caves. Mankind evolved through the harshest conditions on this planet. The Inuits have survived in freaking the frozen north. Okay? And we can't be uncomfortable for a few days. They asked people to turn their heat down so that they could reserve heat, so that they didn't have to shut down. People didn't do it.
No.
But beyond that, Texas is in trouble. Why is Texas in trouble? Because everybody hates big government, but for reasons known only to them, they trust big money. And Texas is the only state in this country where the electric grid is not regulated.
Yeah.
And right away they started saying, oh, it's because we put in all those windmills and solar things. That was a lie.
Yeah.
And the governor of Texas decided it's a good time to get political and try to unseat green energy so they can continue to pollute the planet that we all have to live on with their oil shit, because all that matters is big money. We're going to keep having shit like this, and it's going to get worse unless we start to take care of the fucking environment. Period. But right now, if you didn't know it before, you can't count on anybody else. You have to make contingency plans for yourself and your family. You have to be intelligent. You have to have the plans before, and you do it before. Like right now, I have that other damn house. I don't have a wood heater over there. The gas furnace doesn't work. I have a gas cook stove, and I have electric heaters over there. Okay? If they turn off the electricity, my contingency plan is to go over there and turn the gas stove on and stay over there and watch it to make sure it doesn't cause a fire problem and that it actually heats the house.
And
If they turn the gas and the electric off, my contingency plan is to get the damn generator and carry it over there, because guess what? We don't need it here.
right.
We have wood heat.
Right.
We have candles. We have plenty of food.
Yeah.
And we can cook on our wood stove. So we can have contingency plans. Get canned heat. Get hand warmers. This is one of the reasons I wanted to make this. The little hot hand things that you get, they're air activated. Well, I've been using them, and I noticed, I read the directions. I know. Isn't that insane for me to read the directions? How urgent is this catastrophe? I read directions. That's how urgent. Okay, so I noticed that it said that if they deactivated, they're supposed to last 10 hours. If they deactivated in your shoes or your gloves, that you need to re-expose them to air for a few minutes, and that would reactivate them. And I thought, if in your gloves and your shoes they can get deactivated because there's not enough air, what happens if you put them in a plastic bag?
And seal it.
So I went out in the morning yesterday, so I've already tested this. I went out in the morning with 4. I had 1 in each shoe and 1 in each glove. Did all my chores, came in, stuck them in a plastic bag. Within 5 minutes, they were cold. Mm-hmm. Took them back out again in the afternoon when I had to go out, shook them, let the air hit them. They got hot again. I put them back in my gloves, and I went home and took care of all the animals. Then I took 2 of them, and I put them in a sock and threw them in the kitty's bed so that the evening hours would be warmer. And then before I went to bed, the other 2 that were in the plastic, I got them out, reactivated them, and put them in kitty's bed. And so Kitty stayed hot all night. But here's the thing. So these things can actually be used longer than the 10 hours because you can stop them, unactivate them. Mm-hmm. But those things would be a lifesaver for people right now in Texas that are freezing their asses off. Because I guarantee if you bundle up and you put those things, because I'm working in it. It was 9 degrees below zero, not last night, but the night before. I was out in it. It was still 0. And I didn't get too cold. Another thing you can do, I don't know if I told you this already, but I don't care if I did because this is the emergency edition. If you will take, and here's one of those things, reading is fundamental. Because I learned this reading National Geographic, a thing about mountain climbers. Okay? Mountain climbers who climb Everest found out quite by accident, because of course you'll get, they get sunburn off the
glare off the snow.
The glare off the snow. So they started putting sunscreen on their face, and what they realized was then their face was warmer. So now they smear their entire bodies with it. Okay, it works, people. Put it on your feet, put it on your hands, put it on any exposed skin. It keeps you warmer. If you don't have sunscreen, you can use lotion. Lotion's not as good, but it's a similar principle. It kind of traps the heat in your body. So do that. Okay? All of these things make life that much easier. Be prepared. This is, okay, pandemic aside, when I wrote How I Spent the Apocalypse, a book that only a few people even read, okay, when I wrote that, if you had that book right now, you'd know all this shit, because it's in the goddamn book. Okay, but you didn't buy the book, so fuck you. And if you did buy the book, thank you, and go and read it. Read it, don't just buy it. Okay. But when I wrote it, I had a climate event caused by, well, you have to read the book. Fuck you, read the book. But at any rate, I said in that book, and it's correct, no matter what our apocalyptic scenario is, it's going to be made worse by the weather.
Yes.
When you're talking about climate change. That is exactly what's happening now. We're dealing with a pandemic in the middle of climate change. This is the time that's going to define whether you're a survivor or a putz. Do your best. But next time, because this is not going to be the only time. Every time we get a fucking tornado, my butt clenches. Because I'm pretty set up here, and we could survive a tornado here, but it would tear up every fucking thing that I've worked for. It would tear up everything that makes it easy for me to live through shit like this. Okay? But cold weather, you ought to be able to manage. Use your head. And don't trust Whitey. Seriously. Don't trust rich white guys to take care of your basic needs, because At the end of the day, the only thing that they care about is your fucking money. They literally screwed over Texans to make more money. Not because they couldn't have upgraded, not because they shouldn't have upgraded, but because they didn't want to, because they're making more money this way. Don't trust them. Use your own head. Be prepared. Every single person ought to have a bug out bag. What's a bug out bag? It's a bag that has everything you would need if you got stranded in the fucking wilderness to survive. At least a couple of nights.
And it ought to be somewhere you can grab it.
And it ought to be someplace you can grab it and go. So, bug out bag. There's only one fireplace in the neighborhood, and we all need to go there. Okay? I grab my bug out bag. I don't have to get anything else. I now have enough to help me survive in that situation. So, you got this. It's just cold. Till next time, be careful, think.